Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Marcellus and Pythagoras. Hey Pythagoras, any guesses as to what we'll be learning today? What? Finding the least common factor? Well, that would be kind of silly, Pythagoras. The least common factor of two numbers would always be 1. Today we'll be learning about ratios. The learning objective today is students will express ratios and use ratios to compare categorical data by writing them as fractions in simplest form. What's that you say? What's a ratio? That would be a good place to start, wouldn't it? A ratio is a comparison of two quantities by division. Let's take a look at an example. There are 3 roses and 7 daisies. We could write a ratio comparing the number of roses to the number of daisies. There are 3 ways to write a ratio. One way is to use word form. In this case, we would use 3 to 7. In some instances, it would be more appropriate to use 3 out of 7. A second way to write a ratio is to use a colon between the two numbers. And the third way to write a ratio is in fraction form. For the examples we'll be doing in class, we will typically write ratios as fractions in simplest form. Let's take a look at some more examples. Write a ratio that compares the number of suns to the number of moons. Then explain its meaning. When you write a ratio, you compare the first item to the second item. In this case, we'll be comparing suns to moons. First we count up the suns, and there are 4 of them. Then we count up the moons and see that there are 6. To write a ratio of suns to moons, we would write the fraction 4 over 6. Then we need to simplify the fraction. Both 4 and 6 can be divided by 2, and in order to simplify the fraction, we must divide both the numerator and the denominator by the exact same number. This will give us the simplified fraction 2 over 3. The second part of the problem says to explain its meaning. There are 2 suns for every 3 moons. In this problem, we are to write a ratio that compares the number of Garys to the number of Spongebobs, then explain its meaning. Because we want the number of Garys to the number of Spongebobs, that means we'll put the number of Garys on top. That will be the numerator of our fraction. We can see that there are 8 Garys and there are 2 Spongebobs. So the number of Garys to Spongebobs is 8 to 2. However, this fraction can be simplified. Both the numerator and the denominator can be divided by 2, and that will give us a simplified fraction of 4 to 1. The meaning of our ratio is there are 4 Garys to every 1 Spongebob. Isn't SpongeBob lucky? Last month, Ed ate 9 apples, 5 bananas, 4 pears, and 7 oranges. Find the ratio of bananas to the total number of fruit. Then explain its meaning. Since we want the ratio of bananas to the total number of fruit, we will have to add up all the pieces of fruit. There are 5 bananas, and there are 25 pieces of fruit in total, including the bananas. When you are finding the ratio of a single item in comparison to a total that it is part of, you always include that item in the total. We don't want to leave out the bananas in the denominator. Then we can simplify our fraction by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 5. We end up with the simplified fraction of 1 over 5. This tells us that 1 out of every 5 pieces of fruit Ed ate was a banana. A pet store sold these animals in 1 week. Write the ratio of cats to total pets sold, then explain its meaning. Since we're comparing cats to the total pets sold, we will write 8 as our numerator, and we'll write 32 as the denominator because the total number of birds plus dogs plus cats is 32. We then need to simplify our fraction. Both 8 and 32 can be divided by 8. That leaves us with a ratio of 1 over 4. The meaning of the ratio is that 1 out of every 4 pets sold was a cat. In this problem, we'll write the ratio of dogs to birds, then explain its meaning. Because we're writing a ratio of dogs to birds, that means the number of dogs will go on top and the number of birds will go on the bottom. I will write my ratio and then simplify if possible. The number of dogs is 14 and the number of birds is 10. Both of these can be divided by 2, which will leave me a ratio of 7 to 5. I want to leave this as an improper fraction. This is the one time in math where we get to be completely improper, and it's proper to be improper. If I turn this into a mixed number, I no longer have a ratio. A ratio, by definition, is a comparison of one number to another. And if I turn it into a mixed number, the ratio will lose its meaning. The meaning of our ratio is there are 7 dogs to every 5 birds. So what did you think, Pythagoras? It was pretty easy, wasn't it? Well, I'm glad you think so, because we're going to continue to build on this whole idea of ratio throughout our chapter.